Hillary Clinton did an interview with Axios, and she said something that's making headlines. I want to share it with you here. Clinton says most Republicans want to see Trump gone, but can't say it publicly. Huh. Now, so there are a couple, options here. There's a couple scenarios here. One of them is that she knows this because of things that were said to her off the record, and she's hinting at it. Or the other thing is it could just be a guess of hers, an opinion of hers. And there's actually multiple ways to interpret what she's saying here, too. So when she says Republicans, does she mean Republican leadership, like Republican politicians, or does she mean your average Joe and Jane Republican voter? Because, and here's the point of discussing this, on one of those, she's kind of correct, and on the other one, she's dead wrong. So if she's talking about Republican politicians and Republican leadership, it's not that they want Trump gone. It's that they think it's inevitable and it's going to happen. There is a little bit of a difference there. It's not like, oh my God, we definitely want him gone. It's they're resigned to the fact that he's going to be gone because they don't see any way he wins. So that I think is true. I think McConnell has totally given up on Trump. I think his actions on the stimulus are evidence of that. Think about it. Why is McConnell prioritizing getting Amy Coney Barrett on the court when the American people are really suffering? He doesn't care about the American people. That's obvious. But a stimulus has the potential to maybe help Trump in the polls. He's like, forget about that. Let me just get Amy Coney Barrett on the court. I'm going to prioritize that. That's my legacy, is getting the right-wing lockdown on the court. But the other, Republican politicians, listen, they always fall in line and do what Trump wants, but they are sick of having to apologize for him, having to, explain away a lot of the stuff he says. Trump has no filter. He's uncontrollable. He bounces off the walls and he says crazy things, and to the point where he bullies people on Twitter and whatnot. You and I look at that and we laugh, but people who have to defend him on a daily basis, they're like, oh my God, here I go again. And they don't like that. They don't like that. They don't like him personally. They would rather have somebody like Mitt Romney who does the veneer and the facade and the show of being a serious person as he ruthlessly serves corporations. With Trump, he ruthlessly serves corporations, but he has no filter and he's a pain in the ass and he's annoying and it's hard to explain away all the stuff that's, scandalous. So I think she's kind of right for Republican leadership. They're comfortable with a Biden presidency, also because Biden's a moderate Republican and they know that they could probably get stuff done with him too, like cutting Social Security and Medicare. So I think they're comfortable with it. But here's where she's wrong. If she says most Republicans and she means Republican voters, no. Nobody's ever been more wrong, ever. Because as much as Republican leadership is indifferent to Trump and they're annoyed by Trump and they think it's inevitable he loses, the actual voters, they've never loved a president more than they love Trump. Trump has that solid 30 or 35% base that will never go anywhere ever. He's right. He could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And in fact, get more support from these people. Because they come up with theories about how the guy deserved it and Trump was just being macho and standing up and self-defense and whatever. And that's the other thing that I think Democrats need to grapple with, is that what happens to all that energy? What happens to that 30 to 35% base if/when Trump loses? What happens? Does that just go away? Does it just go away? I don't know. I honestly don't know where all that energy goes. I don't know where all of it goes. But here's what's for sure. They love him more than Republicans have ever loved any president ever, and I even include Reagan in that. I think Trump's diehards are more diehard than Reagan's diehards were. Because Reagan was more beloved in the elite social circles in D.C. He had, Republican voters loved him too, but nobody loves their guy as much as Trump people love his guy. Now, again, that's an ever-shrinking number, so now it's down to 30 or 35% of the country, but that's a solid chunk, man. That's a solid chunk. And it will be, listen, I think the Democratic Party has been at civil war for over 4 years now, and it is the corporatists versus the left. The Democrats have their problems, of course, but there will be a civil war just as bad, if not worse. Just as bad, if not worse, in the Republican Party. Because it's going to be Trumpists versus the establishment types. And it's going to get messy. Because the thing that pisses off Trump more than anything is a personal slight. And if he loses and all the other Republicans in D.C. immediately abandon him, and they will because he lost, then it's like, okay, you have this rabid base of people who never abandoned Trump, and now Trump's calling out the Republican leadership, and so you have a fracture in the Republican Party that's really difficult for them to find a path forward until Trump is like really gone out of the picture. So again, they agree on policy, but even for just the aesthetic reasons, they would be at each other's throats, and that's going to be a crazy thing to watch. So anyway, interesting comment here from Hillary Clinton. She's kind of right about Republican politicians, but definitely wrong about the voters.